Good afternoon, everyone. This is our week 13, and this week we're going to talk about international trade and finance. We'll be discussing this week, and let's start from there. Okay. So first you have to understand about the global independence. None of the country in the world is actually self-sufficient. So resources are, so why it's like that why none of the countries are self-sufficient? Because the resources that we have in this world are actually scattered unevenly everywhere. Okay, so let me show you this. Let me show you this way. So then this is Google Map. All right. So this is the world we have, and you can see the resources that we have inside this earth. Like we are living on the top. Okay, you can see that we are living on top. Okay, and there this inside the ball. There's is full of resources. Okay, it is full of resources. Now, the thing is that these resources are not evenly distributed. Okay, these resources are not evenly distributed. So as a result, you see some countries have some item in abundance, some countries have some resources in short. Okay, so this is the problem. So every country wants to have a good t-shirt, for example. A t-shirt, to make t-shirt, we need good cotton, right? So now the problem is cottons are not grown in every country at the same rate or same quality. Okay, so this is the problem we have. So what we have to do, we have to bring those cottons from other country and make it. Or we can ask other country to make it, who has abundance of those resources. Okay, so this is the problem. So resources are not evenly distributed among the countries. Okay. Next is, so resources are unevenly distributed across the world, and no one country has all resources it needs. Therefore, each country must trade with others, resulting in a world of global economic independence. So what they do, they're internally dependent on each other because they do not have all the resources they need to enjoy their life. Now, how do they do these things? Like they have said, trade is one of the most visible aspects of globalization in the modern world. Okay, and the best way to do these things is to go for international trade. That's what you're trying to do. And Australia's top 10 two-way trading partners are, number one is China. Let me take these things out. So Australia's top 10 trading partners are China, Japan, USA, Republic of Korea, Singapore, New Zealand, UK, Thailand, Malaysia, and Germany. These are the top 10 trading partners for Australia. Okay, recently Australia, from time to time, Australia goes up and down, goes a bumpy way with China. Sometimes from time to time it happens. And this is another part, not of international trade, but I would say for international politics. Okay. So how the modern economies are actually interdependent on each other. So these are the various ways that they're interdependent on each other. Okay, number one, trade in goods and services from early civilization. So we've been trading our goods and services for it's been quite a long time. For trade, then for finance. So there is a good relationship, close relationship between the trade and the global finance market. Okay, rapid financial globalization from the late 1980s. After 80s, the world market has opened for financial trading with other countries as well. Like you can invest in NASDAQ from Australia. You can invest in Nikkei in Japan from Australia. You can invest in China from Australia through buying share market. Okay. Another thing is the global geopolitics and economic policies. Different countries will have different types of economic policies they will have. Okay. And global geopolitics is very important while dealing with the trading. Which country makes what type of deal with which country depends on their geopolitical relationship. Okay. It depends on their relationship of two countries. All right, so this says here, trade is also linked to globalization of production and globalization of labor in a smaller scale. So when you talk about geopolitics in here will be coming around the natural resources they have and the economic policies they take. All right, now you can see China, India, then you can talk about Bangladesh as well. These countries are very highly populated countries, and their population density is too high. So there are a lot of people around there. And what China does, the very good thing China does is actually other countries can follow in this way, that they train their citizens and make them as a human resource than just only about the citizens. No. That's the thing Chinese government does. Same as India too. India does the same thing as well. They try to train their people and send them to other countries overseas to work. So you can think that they're actually sending people to other countries for work. But if you think it other way around, for example, let's say that this is actually a part of trading labor. Labor itself is a product. Do not think I mean here labor means the workers. No. Labor means the industry they make. Labor means the hard work they do. That thing is covered in labor as well. Labor doesn't mean only the human itself, and human is not product. We take human in different form, different way. We say this way, that everybody is a labor. Who is working is a labor, regardless of what job you do. Even the Prime Minister of Australia is a labor too, according to economics. Okay, and the Chinese President Xi Jinping, Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. Then if you talk about US, Joe Biden, all these people are also labor. Skilled migrant, people who are moving one country to another country to have a better job. These things also possible because two countries came to an agreement. Two different countries came to an agreement that they will let one citizen of a country will be working in another country. Okay. These things are also part of your economic policy and the relationship with other countries. Okay. For example, let's say North Korea do not have a good relation with Australia or with China. So people from that country, I don't think they will get the working holiday visa. Okay, so like this. It depends on what type of relationship each government maintains with other countries. Yes, it depends on that they make those deals. These are called international agreements they make, international treaties they make, and this is very normal for any country to do so. It's nothing very uncommon. Okay. So yes, so globalization of labor means that here we mean that the citizens will go from one country to another country and they will work. Yes, that's how they go, the globalization of labor. Labor moves from one country to another country. Big company CEO even actually leave a country, go to another country and work. It's very normal. Okay, so do not take it as labor means we mean the blue collar labor only. No, not true. Okay. Next, relating concepts, production possibility frontier. Now, these concepts are actually part of our very hardcore economic theoretical point of view. Like which country will make what will give them more benefit, which item to import, which item to export. These things we'll be talking about here. Okay. So production possibility frontier and opportunity cost with international trade. So now international opportunity cost. In choosing among feasible output combinations, people face opportunities cost. The opportunity cost of any action is the best alternative foregone. We know this one, therefore, what opportunity cost is. So opportunity cost is that what you are foregoing, what you are letting go because you have some other plan to work with something else. Like I gave an example before, that you have $20, your resources are limited, so you have to make a choice. When you need to make this choice, okay, you have to understand which one is more necessary to you. That's where it comes about the trading off. Okay, making one choice is not good enough. Making one efficient choice is very inevitable. All right, so here is a list. 15 of Australia's top trading partner. You can see here. And let me make it a little bigger. You can see with China, Australia has around 29.2% of our Australian export. Very big, 74 billion. See that? With Japan, 26. South Korea, 13. India, 10. USA, 9.2. Not much, only 3.6%. China has 10 times more business with Australia than USA. Hong Kong, 7.9. Then New Zealand, 7.1. Taiwan, 6.7. All right. Taiwan is very interesting here. Taiwan is very interesting here. Taiwan is not recognized as a country yet if you look at World Bank or United Nations. Taiwan is still, we know it as a province of China. Okay. Hong Kong the same, Macau the same, Taiwan the same. These are the province of China. But Taiwan is actually, I don't know which year was that, but it was probably when the Mao Zedong was in there at that time. The opposition party was actually fled to Taiwan, which was an island of China, Chinese water. Yes, and they started living in that place. Slowly, that island became a good economic venture. That's what is Taiwan. Some of you might think why Taiwan separate is not a country. Yes, I agree with that. Yes. So that was, I think it was national part, and it was Chiang dynasty, I believe, in that time. All right, that's the part of history. Singapore is 4.9, Thailand is 4.8, Netherlands 2.2. You can see. I believe China has a lot of trading partners in the world, and they are quite becoming very big in consumer goods hub in the world globally. Yes. Future annual growth in volume of world export and growth. You can see here. And as you can see in 2009, that time we had a huge drop in annual growth was dropped. There was growth, but the growth was negative. It went down, you can see. Switch down. So this is the part happened in when there was a global financial crisis that time. Then again, 1975 as well, we had once. It's 70s. Another one you can see here that it was in the 80s. That time inflation rate was very high in Australia. Inflation rate was very high in Australia. And this is the thing not for Australia, we actually for the global. We're talking about the global. And here it is, another one comes up here. So you see world trade and world trade in volume and in US dollars. So this is the volume means how much quantity they mean, and this one in terms of money value. The things they are quite related to each other, and here you can see money value has dropped because that time I believe it was because of US dollar has gone down.
Eh?
Say again?
Oh, sorry, I was just didn't realize I was off mute. I was just reading it out loud and just realized it where it said calculations by the Bank of Finland with the sources. Just strange, that's all.
So this is the thing is CPB, macro bond and calculations by the Bank of Finland.
Yeah, this was a strange source, that's all.
Why this strange source?
Oh, I just wasn't expecting it to be out of Finland, that's all. The source of it. I thought it would be a US-based bank or something.
All right. Okay, yes. So now, look, these things actually, we do not actually consider all the time. It's like any Reserve Bank of Australia, not only Australia, any Reserve Bank of any country, National Bank of any country is considered as a authentic source of information. You take it as in economics, you learn it when you do some research, work on this. Not that time they will teach you which reference to take, which sources to take, which sources not to take. That time they will just show you these things. So I would say here, if Bank of Finland, I will say Bank of Finland is the National Bank of Finland. We will accept that. For example, let's say we will not accept anything from Wikipedia. We will not accept anything from blog. Or if it is an opinion of some expert, that is also acceptable in terms of references and sources. But opinion of experts should be coming in terms of written. These things are also okay. These data, this should be fine because in the sense like Bank of Finland will have this information, other countries will have the same similar information they will have. Let me actually have a look. It's a snapshot. All right. Financials. Okay, that's a database company there. They provide the data service and other information and software things. Yeah. Maximum and calculation by the Bank of Finland. So okay, Bank of Finland, they actually did this calculation. But it's all right. Even the Bank of Finland that does this calculation, it's okay because we will take Bank of Finland as an authentic source and they will do it right. Like any Bureau of Statistics is an authentic source of a country. We take that as a government version, and it needs to be authentic one to be treated. But anyway, when you go for the real database, you do lots of manipulation as well. The other things are involved in here too. Like when I did my PhD research, that time my data collection was actually mainly from IMF, World Bank, and another country, another was there called BIS. BIS is also very interesting. BIS data, Bank of International Settlement. We take these people I would take as a think tank. Then another one you will find very interesting called Google. Google is also, yeah. Google is another think tank. Yeah. Okay, here it is. Google, the Brussels-based economic think tank. So these people's data we accept. In global, we accept these people's data. We are big think tank and they ask this thing. Yes, so if we go in distance like publication, they will show you that they got some data in there. Sometimes you collect data from them. And how do they do us this calculation? What are the calculation involved in there? We have information on that too. Like if we go here, data set. From here you can get some data. For example, the data I took of interest rate, I believe. Oh no, I took it from here. Real exchange rate I took from here. That's what I took from here, and we worked on these things. Yeah. Real effective exchange rate, that's what we took from here. And we have those things in there. All right. Anyway, I'll accept this one. Going forward, global welfare and trade. This is trade can benefit everyone in society because it allows people to specialize in activity in which they have comparative advantage. We need to understand what is comparative advantage, otherwise this will not make any sense. Comparative advantage is this. We actually calculate the advantages in two ways. One is absolute advantage, another one is comparative advantage. The absolute advantage was first introduced by Adam Smith. Adam Smith was which year? 1770, 80, 90s, that time he was there. Adam Smith. Then this is David Ricardo. Later he came up and he actually modified it a little bit and gave it with the idea of comparative advantage. So now, what is absolute advantage? Absolute advantage is the comparison of the productivity of one person, or firm, or nation with another. Okay. So in absolute advantage, they see here which country can make an item at a cheaper price. That's all they used to look at. A country who can make item at a cheaper price, those countries will be known to have absolute advantage over another country. Okay. So a country, when they produce an item, in terms of when they produce, they try to see what will be the costing. If the cost is lower the cost, that country has absolute advantage. That's what we do. Let's say Australia can produce one T-shirt at, let's say, $5 US. China can make the same thing at, let's say, $3 US. So China has absolute advantage over Australia. So China will be making a T-shirt, and Australia is going to buy those T-shirts from China. This is the rule. But for comparative advantage, it's not about cost, it's about opportunity cost. So they will think if Australia wants to make a T-shirt, how much Australia will have to sacrifice. So they do not count it with money. They count it opportunity cost. How they do it? They say that to make a T-shirt, Australia need to sacrifice, let's say, 1 hour of labor, then 1 pound of cotton. Okay. And let's say, yeah, let's say this two. Australia needs 1 hour of labor and 1 pound of cotton. But to produce the same thing, China needs to actually apply. China needs to lose, or they will lose the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost of China will be, for example, let's say they will need to produce, sacrifice 1 hour of labor, but half pound of cotton. See that? Labor is fine, but the problem is with the raw materials. China can produce the same thing with the less cotton raw materials. The opportunity cost to produce the t-shirt in China is lower than Australia. So it means that China will have competitive advantage over Australia. Does it make sense, guys, what I'm saying? The difference between absolute advantage and competitive advantage. Yeah? Kinan? Kinan Hopkins.
Yeah, it's making sense.
It makes sense? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Charmaine Lopez?
Yep.
All good? Abiraj Hanja?
I understand.
I understand. All right. Thank you. So this is very important part to understand. A lot of people don't understand what is absolute advantage, what is competitive advantage, the difference between these two. One is just checking how much it costs to produce. Another one is checking how much opportunity cost it has. If the opportunity cost is too high, that's not good. The country who will have less opportunity cost, those countries will have competitive advantage over another country. All right. So this says here, production possibilities for two countries. The two countries in there, less developed country and developed country. Okay. So less developed country, LDC country, they can produce either 2 kilos of wheat or 1 metric ton of cloth. Oh, sorry, 1 meter of cloth. LDC country, they can produce 2 kilos of wheat or 1 meter of cloth with their resources. Look, to produce 2 kilo of wheat, the opportunity cost is 1 meter of cloth, right? For LDC countries. Be noticing here, be careful in this. Now, for developed countries, to produce 4 kilos of wheat, the opportunity cost is 8 meters of cloth. So, which means for 2 kilos of wheat, it will be 4 meters of cloth. Look, developed countries will have to sacrifice more cloth to produce 2 kilos of wheat. Does it make sense? So tell me, which country has competitive advantage in what? Let's try. Let me see who wants to walk along with me.
Mohammed, can you repeat the question again, please?
Okay. Here we are going to talk about which country will have competitive advantage on which item. Okay. Let me go through with you guys, then it will help you guys to understand. All right. So I'm going to talk with first Hong. Ready, Hong, with me?
Yeah.
Good. So now I'll ask you some questions, you give me the answers. Okay. So our target here to find out the opportunity cost, because we are going to find out the competitive advantage. So our target is here to find out opportunity cost. Okay. Now, if a country can produce 2 kilos of wheat or 1 meter of cloth, it means using all the resources they have. It's an example, so don't take it seriously that, come on, a country will produce more than 2 kilos of wheat. I understand that. Just an example to make you understand, okay? Don't take it serious. All right. A country using all their resources, I mean, their land, their labor, their capital, their management, these four we mean them. All the resources, that country can produce how much? How many kilo of wheat? 2 kilo of wheat. Or they can produce only 1 meter of cloth. They have to choose any one. Right? Okay, if that is the case, now to produce 1 meter of cloth, what will be the opportunity cost of LDC country? Home, tell me please.
2 kilo of wheat.
Exactly. To produce 1 meter of cloth, LDC country have to sacrifice 2 kilos of wheat. That's the opportunity cost of 1 meter of cloth. Now let's go to developed country. For opportunity to produce 1 meter of cloth, see how much wheat they will have to sacrifice for developed country?
Half a kilo.
Half kilo. So who is sacrificing less? To produce 1 meter of cloth, LDC country have to sacrifice 2 kilo of wheat. To produce the same 1 meter of cloth, developed country will have to sacrifice half kilo of wheat.
So
which
developed country.
Second,
Developed country.
yeah, developed country will be sacrificing less, isn't it? Just half kilo of wheat. So it means developed country do not have to sacrifice much to produce 1 meter of cloth. They will give a phone call to LDC country and say, hey, hello, my friend, look, to produce 1 meter of cloth, you are actually losing 2 kilo of weight. But for my country, to produce 1 meter of cloth, I lose only half kilo of weight. So why you losing more? Why you have to lose more? Make sense? So developed country will start producing cloth. See, why is that? Because developed country has comparative advantage in producing cloth than less developing countries. Make sense now? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Now we have seen to produce 1 meter of cloth, right? Now let's try with weight. Kinan, ready?
Yep.
All right. Now to produce 1 kilo of wheat, how much less developing country will have to sacrifice? How many meter of cloth they have to sacrifice to produce?
Half a meter.
Half meter, perfect. Now look, to produce the same wheat, same 1 kilo of wheat, how much developed country will have to sacrifice?
2.
2. So which country has more comparative advantage over another?
The less developed.
Less developed country has comparative advantage of producing wheat
Yes.
than developed country. But developed country has comparative advantage of producing cloth than less developing country. See that? So two countries is expert in producing two things. Make sense now?
Yep.
Developed country expert in producing cloth, less developing country, less developed country is actually expert in producing wheat. So developed country will produce cloth and less developing country will produce wheat, and they will exchange. Then they will say, now I have produced my cloth, and less developing will say, I also produced my wheat, let's exchange. Now at what rate they're going to exchange? That comes next stage. Okay. 1 meter of cloth will buy how much of wheat? That's different things will come up. All right. Okay. You understand these things, right? Comparative advantages. Very good. Thank you so much. Free trade exchange ratio. Okay. Now they're talking about before the trade. So we are going to trade soon. But before the trade, the situation is this. So for this developed country, 1 wheat for 1, 2 wheat for 1 cloth. See, 2 and 1. For developed countries, 1 wheat for 2 cloth. That was the situation they had. But before the trade. Now, if they make the trade, the gains from the trade. How do they make the gain from the trade? Look, interesting thing of international trade is that whenever a country make a trade, okay, with another country, both the country will be benefited. Looks very, very confusing, but that's the truth. Both the country will be benefited. Okay, how it happens? Have a look. So before pre-traded situation was this: less developing country 2 wheat 1 cloth, and developing country 1 wheat for 2 cloth. This is the situation they have. Now, at an exchange rate ratio of 1:1, it means they will produce, I'll give you 1 kilo of wheat, you give me 1 meter of cloth. Okay, so LDC only has to give up 1 kilo of wheat to obtain 1 meter of cloth, whereas before the trade, it had to be 2 kilos of wheat. So now they made a deal. What the deal they made? They made the deal that, okay, I give you we're gonna exchange at 1 kilo of wheat for 1 meter of cloth. Make sense? That's what is their price they set up. That we are going to give you 1 meter of cloth and you give me 1 kilo of wheat. That's how they're exchanging. Now, for less developed countries, okay, less developed countries, see, now they're giving 1 kilo of wheat and they're receiving 1 meter of cloth, 1 for 1. For developed country, the same. They are giving 1 meter of cloth and receiving 1 meter of, also 1 kilo of wheat. So see, for developed countries, they produced wheat. See, they are getting now 1 wheat and 1 cloth, enjoying both. Here also, developed country, if they need to produce 1 kilo of wheat, they have to sacrifice 2 meter of cloth. Now, they can get the 1 kilo of wheat by giving just 1 meter of clothes to the other country, LDC country. Does it make sense, guys? That both the countries getting benefit. A lot of politicians will say that, oh, we made a treaty, we made a contract with other countries where we do not have our benefit, those things. I understand, but if it is done properly in economic way, international trade is actually to help both the countries. But politicians, they sometimes, let's say in this situation, the developed country will be doing good in producing clothes, but they made the agreement to produce wheat. That's the loss for developed countries, right? This type of things this politicians does for some other benefit, some other things, you know. It's not, they don't think only just of wheat and clothes, they think something more than that. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you guys understand these things. Again, in exchange of the same way they're talking in here. Very simple. Any questions for me, guys? Any of you? Any questions?
No, not from me.
Not for me. That's fine. Thank you. Sources of comparative advantage. How a country can be at comparative advantage or comparative advantageous situation than other countries. So, well, for individual point of view, for national point of view, and what else? Okay, this to the she showed you here. For individual point of view, for an individual person, a person is born talented. Some people are born talented. People of some specific countries are beautiful than other countries. They're born like that. Okay. Education and training. Maybe that country, the government has actually offered more education and training. That's why it's very important to have a proper education system in the country. Experience. So from individual person can be born talent, they can be well educated and well trained, they can have a better experience in working in a specific industry for a long time. From national point of view, how a country can be super comparative advantageous to another country? Natural resources. Australia has easy access to iron ore and minerals. Ores and minerals. Kangaroos. No other country has this thing. See that? Same way. Different country will have different. Like China has some exotic items that we do not have. We have some exotic items that China do not have. Right? US is the same way. They have different things that we don't have. Infrastructure, research and development, subsidies. The government has like research and development, China, big countries like USA, UK, Germany, China, Australia, these countries, they spend a lot of money on research and development. Huge, huge this way. After some days, you will find, oh my God, boom, they're gonna declare something doing this to found something interesting. Every country trying to come up with the best ideas. There is a competition in this place. Then cultural institutions and education system plus entrepreneurial spirit. Some people are born as business. Some countries people are very good in doing business. French people, very good in wine making. They're doing it for a long time. Right? China, herbal medication. USA, machineries. Big machineries they produce, they're very good in that. Technologies. Then Germany for car. Very good. Okay. It depends on like Japan, electronics. So different countries has different expertise at different level. It could come at national level, it could come at individual. Okay. So from that, the comparative advantage will be there. Now, free trade. What is free trade? Free trade refers to trade between nations that is not restricted by government, protection of government industries or domestic industries. Free trade means you can trade freely with one country with another country. Okay, what does it do? So free trade between nations, between two countries are said to increase world output, reduce cost of goods sold, increase the nation's standard of living. Okay. So free trade between nations will increase the global output. So look, even we are living in separate countries, but this world is all of ours, all of us. So the resources we're gonna have, if we finish up these resources quickly, our next generation will do not have anything. We need to be careful on that too. Okay. So why don't we use less resources and produce more? Like in comparative advantage shows us, use less resources but produce more. It will help us to reduce the cost of goods. Also, it will increase the national standard of living. Now, what is trade restrictions or protectionism? Every country wants to see that their businessmen are doing well. You will find these things when a country chief, head of state, goes to visit another country. You will see they are not going alone. They are accompanied with some business people. These business people will meet the government officials of another country. And they will tell them what they can bring from another country. Someone comes from Kazakhstan or Czech Republic, they come to Australia and try to do some business. The businessman from Czech will come to Australia, or Australian businessman will go to Czech, and they will have a sitting and try to find out what business they can do together. But remember this, every country is very well aware about their businessman's benefit. Czech Republic will not tolerate loss in their businessman than Australia. Australia is the same way too. both the countries will be doing the same. So how do they do business then? Interesting thing is this. They will do business when they will have win-win situation. They let the product go freely, have free entry, free trade, but up to certain extent. Up to certain quality. Quantity. They put some restrictions. Some items they do, some items they don't. It depends on which item, what item, depends on that. Okay. So trade restrictions means they make free trade restricted. Why do they do that? To protect their domestic industries. Let me give you an example here. Let's say that China makes very good t-shirt. China makes very good t-shirt. In Australia too, there are some companies, they make good t-shirt as well. Now China can make it at a lower price because of the opportunity cost is low. Now, if that item comes from China to Australia, Australian people will buy Chinese product. Why? It's cheaper. And the same quality is same, for example. Exactly the same quality, but Chinese product is cheaper. Why someone will buy Australian product? They will not. That's why after some days you will find the Australian producer, he will be dead. Dead in the, I don't mean physically, I mean his business will be dead. Okay. So Australian government will try to protect them. How they're going to protect it? There are some ways to protect it. That's called the protectionism. Australian government might say, okay, that when you bring something from China to Australia, you have to pay higher tax, excise, customs duty. And they will put it so much of tax that it will go quite equal to Australian market price, is one way. Another way is that let the item come into the Australian market, but Australian government will subsidize the Australian businessman in some other way. So there are different ways to protect. So this is called protectionism or trade restrictions. These government measure, government actions designed to protect domestic companies from competition by international firms and industries. All right. Argument for trade restrictions. That's all right. I got the message, sorry. That's all right. Okay. The arguments for trade restrictions. Some people say there should not be any trade restrictions. Some people say there should be some restrictions. So it depends. It depends. So this says why they want trade restrictions: to foster domestic infant industries, to improve the nation's terms of trade, to offset distortions in the nation's domestic economy, to follow strategic trade policies. Okay. Now, these are the good things this protectionism can do. Okay. All right. Now, terms of trade, what is that? At what percentage, at what ratio they will exchange goods? That's terms of trade. Okay. This is done by index. This is done by index. All right. To follow strategic trade policy to reduce reliance on goods with little dynamic potential. Sometimes the supply is when you import a lot of goods from other countries, you are actually depending on other countries for supplies. If they stop, or there is a shortage in their country too, that's the problem. Like I remember in 2015, I believe, Nepal had a huge earthquake, and India did not have enough supplies. And Nepal was depending on India at that time. India was also in, like not every country has always a good crop, not a good harvesting every year. Sometimes they have these issues and they could not supply enough because every country will prioritize their own nations. That's the part of nationalism. they will actually respect their citizens' need first. The excess they will sell to other countries or give to other countries. That time, India did not have enough crop or enough harvesting or some other political reasons. I'm not sure about those. But as far I know, the supply was stopped. And Nepal was really in big crisis at the time. These things, this trade actually resulted in a very bad diplomatic relationship between Nepal and India. It happened. This is very important, relying on other countries. To prevent dumping and other unfair trade practices. Okay, to prevent dumping and other unfair trade practices. Dumping means that like this, that you'll be selling an item lower than your cost price. It means dumping. It's not like dumping in the ocean, it's not like that. Dumping means you're selling the item at lower than your cost price to another country. That's called dumping. Okay, to prevent the establishment of foreign-based monopoly, this is another important thing. The other country will have monopoly, that's why. To spread the risk of fluctuating market. Market can be fluctuating sometimes. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next. Common trade, what are the restrictions they apply actually sometimes? The restriction they apply is this tariff. Tariff, taxes on levied on an import. Quota, how many you can import. Yes. Okay, so tariff is one of them. Tariff is tax, or taxes and custom excise. Quota, restriction on how many items you can bring. That's a quota system they call. It was quota system in the past. Slowly, when they started the free trade, then they started the tariff and other things. Export subsidies. The government will put some subsidies, give some benefits to those companies who can do good export. Procurement policies, administrative barriers. So these are the things they will like: procurement policies, administrative barriers. They will create some problems to import. Delay. Because this country do not want some specific item to come to this country. They will try to make it exclusive. That's what they try to say in India. So mainly it goes tariff, quota, export subsidies. This still goes mainly. And tariff means like custom excise, custom tax. Problems with the protection. What are the protection problem we have? The cost of protection. Protection as second best. Protection may allow farms to remain insufficient. So if there is protection, the problem is domestic country. Oh, we are getting the support from the government, so they are not caring about making themselves competitive with international companies. This is one problem. The company remains inefficient. This is one problem. Okay. Another problem is that when a country, Australia, would put a tax on Australia, or like I give example. In USA, and Donald Trump was in power at that time, he put 25% tax on any item comes from China. I don't remember which item, some items, he put a tax of 25%. China did exactly the same. There is no reason to think that, okay, I can increase the tariff, they will not increase tariff on my product. No, it's not going to happen. There will be some consequences for this too. So it depends on what are the relationship you have. That's why it's very important to have a good foreign minister who can work on it. Now let's talk about effect of tariff. Tariff is a tax on imported goods and services. Tariff reduces the quantity of import and moves the domestic market closer to equilibrium without trade. See that? So when you put a tariff, that a lot of people will not demand the item because they need to pay the tax. And we learned from our previous chapters that tax, when a government imposes a tax, it will have impact both buyer and seller together. Okay. Then gains and losses from tariff. Since tariff raises the domestic price, domestic sellers are better off. So when you put a tax on an imported item, then the imported item price goes high. So the domestic traders, sellers, they are better off because they don't have to compete with other countries, other products. The domestic buyers are worse off. The domestic buyers are not getting a lot of product. There is a shortage in the market. The price will be increasing. This is the problem. and government put a tax. In addition, another good thing is that government increases revenue. Government revenue increases. Import quota. So quota is another one. When you put a quota, the limit on the quantity of import. So how many items you can buy, you can bring from other countries. That's what it says, numbers. Since that import quota prevents a country to import as much as they want, the supply of a product will no longer be perfectly elastic at the world price. The total supply equals the domestic supply plus the quota amount. Okay. So when China will be producing some item, they'll be producing for their country people, and also they'll be producing some items so that can be sold to another countries. And that time they will remember that how much is the quota, how many they are allowed to export or the other countries to import. They will think about it. Okay. So the import quota reduces the import of particular product. All right. Debate, protection versus free trade. So there was a debate on this one. Up to 1973, manufacturing industries received a high level of tariff protection up to 20%. In Australia, there is an infant industry argument. By 1970s, argued that tariff protection leads to manufacturing sector uncompetitive. They found it this way, that since we are actually not doing very well because we are being protected by the government, so they are becoming uncompetitive. Relatively high prices paid by consumers and other firms, inefficient allocation of resources. These are the problems we had in 1970. In fact, after 1973, we supported the manufacturing industry. Okay. And 1973, Labour government reduced all tariffs unilaterally by 25%, and further reduction continued to 1980s, 90s. So we slowly started to take the tariff off, and more goods will start to come to Australia. And you see here the cost of protection. All right, so you can see shaded area equals loss of consumer surplus. So you can see here the price they had was this much, world price. This was the situation we had, world price was in here. When the government put a tax on it, okay. So the demand was not Q2 anymore, demand came down to Q4. So at this price, the supply, look at the supply, was Q1, but the demand was Q2. So there was a shortage, this much of shortage in the market. Government put a tax, now you see, supply has increased to Q3, and the demand has decreased to Q4. We squeezed a little bit. As a result, they lost this much of consumer surplus. Now you go to the next one. What happened? Is this area one, this one, it was the gains in producer surplus. So the consumer surplus has been lost. Okay, that has been converted into producer surplus. So this is level one. This section, area one, is equal to gain in producer surplus. Okay. And 3 is the government revenue. Okay, so this is much supply, this is the demand, this much will be the import, and each of the item government is this much of tariff. So multiply this to, we will get this much government tariff. Okay. Number 4, deadweight loss. Okay. 2, from producer side, this will be the loss. 2 and 4 equals to net loss. 3 portion goes to the government as tariff, as tax. 1 goes to the producer as a producer surplus. Now, trading blocks. Types of preferential trading agreement, how the government makes the trades. So trading blocks means which countries comes together and make a trade, like European Union become a bloc. Okay, European Union, they try to come up together to make their own resources, own rules of engagement, the way they're going to do business with each other. That's what European Union did. Okay, but later Britain found that this agreement is not very helpful for Britain, so they decided not to continue with this trade agreement. They took themselves out through Brexit. Okay, Britain exit, that's what they call Brexit. They did it. Now you can see ASEAN, free trade areas, ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Okay. Then EU and US Free Trade Alliance, TTIP, NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, which Donald Trump did not like at all, NAFTA. He thinks this thing is actually lost for USA. Sometimes, like, you know, the rich countries give a loss for other poor countries. They do this thing, they give a loss. But this loss is not necessarily all the time. You need to think about it. Sometimes you need to understand there are some other benefits even you're giving this loss. So you're giving in one way, but taking in another way. That's where the politics goes. Okay, so yeah. So he actually mentioned about it many times that NAFTA is not good for USA. But yeah, maybe not good for USA. But the thing is, with NAFTA, this will make the neighbors happy, neighboring countries happy. That is necessary as well. That the neighboring countries have a good relation with the host country. It is very important. All right. Now let's talk about balance of payment. Balance of payment means is a systematic record of transaction of world with the rest of the world. One country will have trade with maybe another 100 countries. Okay, so balance of payment actually is a record, it's a journal to maintain a record of which country is doing which business, how much they traded, who is owning whom, how much, owing how much. This is the record they keep. That's what is balance of payment. Balance of payment has two accounts, current account and capital account. Current account means what? Goods and services, income payment, interest payment, dividend transfer, this is the current payment. Capital payments, government capital flows and private capital flows. What is that? Capital account records transactions of capital for an investment. Okay, how much capital are being invested? Like foreign investment comes in two ways, in portfolio or direct. One is called foreign direct investment, another is called foreign portfolio investment. Okay, when we talk about foreign direct investment, for example, let's say USA or China has set up one company in Australia. That's an investment too, right? Again, not necessarily they will have to set up all the time. China can buy or India can buy some share in Australian company too. That's also investment. Okay, when a country will making or a company will make investment in another company of other country by buying the share, okay, dividend or not share, or let's say debentures, this type of things, then we call it capital account. Current account means when the physical product is moving from one country to another country. Okay, income payments, like when someone take a job like working holiday visa, they came to Australia and work in Australia, it's an income. So this money need to be transferred to other countries. Okay, some of the money you carry with you physically, some money you cannot carry. What you do that time, you keep it in the record. That's the balance of payment. Okay. So never think Australia is selling $20 billion coal to China. Does not mean Australia is giving $20 billion physical cash to China. No, it's not. Australia will also see how much China is buying from, China is selling to Australia. Then they will see the balance. After doing the whole years of transactions, now Australia owes, let's say, 3 billion to China, or China owes 2 billion to Australia, like this. We'll keep that record, the balances. Here you can see the different part of current account. export and import of goods and services. Balance of merchandise trade, the value of export minus the value of import. That's how they find out the balance of trade. Okay. And you know what is export, what is import. I don't think I need to explain that. Okay. Transfers, income refer payment of interest, dividend, royalties, net income in the difference between the amount of interest, dividend, and royalties. Okay. Transfer refer to one-way gift of foreign aid. Okay, sometimes rich countries, they make lots of foreign aid to other countries. India received a lot of foreign aid from UK. I think they stopped it from last year when India actually became mid-earner country in the world. With the capital account, capital flows into and out of a nation. It has two parts, that official government and private sector. Official government is made up of official government loans to overseas minus official government borrowing from overseas. So when government take a loan from one country to another country, like USA took lots of loan from China. Sri Lanka is taking a lot of loan from China too. Afghanistan is seeking as well. A lot of countries, like IMF, from the IMF, they take loan as well. World Bank, they take loan as well. It also includes the changes in central bank holdings due to the central bank interventions in the foreign exchange market. The private sector, private loans to overseas minus the private borrowing from overseas. So capital account is all about cash money they're talking about, okay? They're talking about the monetary things. And current account is all about the items, goods and services. Remember that. That's the difference between these two. You see the current account balance of payment summary, original 2019 June, current account, capital account. All right, let's move on. This is the balance of payment. Table 15.1, balance of payment Australia 2011 and 12, current and capital account. You can see current account, balance of trading goods, balance of trading services, investment income balance, just three things. Capital account, net capital transfer, capital account balance. So minus 42, minus 11, yeah, it will be 53396. Now, financial account, like I said, direct investment, foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investment, financial derivatives, other investment flows, changes to reserve assets. So the financial account is also part of the current account. Sorry, capital account, but it will include these things. Direct investment, how much a country invests in another country. Okay, portfolio investment. Direct investment means that you are making your own business setup in another country. Factory, business, premises, plant setup, that direct investment. Portfolio investment, that they purchase, one country is purchasing share of another country's companies. Okay, let's say Apple Computers is purchasing share of Tencent in China. Okay. Financial derivatives, bonds, debentures, these things, financial derivatives. Okay, like every country, they have their own treasury bond. When they sell this, give this bond to other countries and take a loan, that's part of financial derivatives. All right. So here is a data for Australia. Total of 3 accounts is 0. Now, let's talk about exchange rate. What is exchange rate? An exchange rate is the price of one nation's currency in terms of another nation's currency. Exchange rate is the price of one nation's currency in terms of another nation's currency. There are two ways of quoting exchange rate. One is called direct quote, another is called indirect quote. Okay. All right. Take these things out. Okay. So one is a direct, indirect quote. Another one is a direct. Indirect quote means it refers to how much $1 is owed in terms of other currencies. Like we say, AUD is this much. Direct quote, it refers to how much 1 unit of currency, say US, is owed. Normally, other countries says, look, direct quote, indirect quote is this. For example, let's say, when how much $1 is owed, that's direct quote. Indirect quote. Since US dollar is an international currency, mostly we measure this way. How much $1 cost by another country? How much money one country needs to pay to buy $1? That is direct quote. Make sense? When you say, let me show it one more time. Let me write. One RMB, right, is equal to, I shouldn't say one RMB, I should say $1 is equal to how much? 5 RMB, for example. This is direct. Okay. And when you will say that 1 RMB is equal to, let's say, 0.2 USD. This is okay. So the normal thing is that when you say 1 USD, because one international currency is equal to how much of domestic currency, that is direct. When you say how much 1 RMB is equal to USD, that it becomes okay. Indirect. And currencies are bought and sold through foreign exchange market. Let's go in here. Yes, the same. So foreign exchange market are made up the demand and supply of different currencies. It actually depends on demand and supply, the price, exchange rate. Okay, how much supply are in there? Normally supplies are fixed. So this says here, 5 categories, 5 ways. So currencies are demanded and supplied by 5 groups: traders, investors, tourists, speculators. Okay, these are the 5 groups that demand and supply from traders, businessmen. When the businessmen, like you notice that Monday morning, everybody's exchange rate is too high because demand is too high. Everybody is doing trade. Investors investing in one country. Tourists, when the tourists are flowing, they need a lot of foreign currency that time, but they need to exchange it. Speculators, business people who makes money out of when the price goes down and up, the speculators. Central bank as well. So sometimes you'll see the price is too low, they will buy it. Price is high, they will sell it. That's a speculator, the business people. Okay, so in Australia, normal thing is that in Australia, we normally use indirect quote in Australia. It's usual practice in Australia. Okay. And exchange rates can be floating, fixed, or managed. Okay, how it works? Yeah, fixed and floating exchange rates. Okay. So you can see US dollar, UK pound, so 2000, and you can see here. Trade weighted index, Japanese yen, 70 to 100. So these are the things like we try to find out an Australian dollar exchange rate with US dollar, UK pound, Japanese yen. That's what it is. So here, Australia, you can ask me question, Mohammed, they did not say $1 equal to how many Australian dollars? They did not say that. Yes, because Australia uses indirect quote. Australia uses indirect quote. That's why we will say 1 Australian dollar is equal to how much of other item. In direct quote, we will say 1 US dollar is equal to how much in other currency. All right. Fixed means when your exchange rate are fixed, you talk with the government, through government, like China and USA, they have this thing that their exchange rate is fixed. Okay, they will fix the exchange rate. Floating, it changes every day. It's floating exchange rate. How exchange rate is determined? No government or central bank intervention. Exchange rate is not determined by the government or central bank. Okay, floating exchange rate is determined by market demand and supply of currency. The demand and supply will determine it. Okay, and then automatic balancing of overall balance of payment. Okay, nothing much in here. Okay, here. Current capital and financial accounts may not separately balance, shifting the currency. Okay. But we should actually talk about this depreciation and appreciation. This is important. This is important. What does depreciation mean? In a currency depreciation, exchange rate, I should say, exchange rate depreciation. Exchange rate depreciation, what does it mean? It means a country's exchange rate will be depreciated, will go down when the fall in domestic interest rate. Interest rate falls down. Higher inflation in the domestic economy than abroad, the inflation rate is high. When the rise in domestic income related to income abroad, when the domestic income is higher than other countries abroad. Okay. Relative investment prospect improving abroad. If the country has a relative investment prospect, if they can see they have a future investing in other countries, it will go down. The speculation that exchange rate will fail. When there is a speculation or there is a prediction or rumor, you can say, exchange rate will be dropping, so people will not buy it. Okay, that's how the demand of exchange rate will be going down. When the demand goes down, price will also go down. Absolutely. And appreciation, just opposite of these things. You can see Australian dollar was very volatile. Slowly getting, like here you can see exchange rate related prices. Nominal trade weighting index, the blue one. Australian trading partners, CPI. So these things are actually, they're showing you the real rate, real exchange rate they're showing you here. This red line is a real exchange rate, which is much more stable and upward sloping. But if you look here, these ones, Australian dollar in currency, you see that is here you can see it's a huge gap. And here it's because of the production was down in global financial crisis. Then it went too high. Now it's going down in here and probably it will go high again. So you can see here the x-axis is your quantity of Australian dollar, money supply. This is supply, quantity of supply and demand, and this side is showing you the price of Australian dollar. Quantity of Australian dollar, and this one is showing the price of Australian dollar. Price of Australian dollar, I mean the exchange rate, I mean here. Okay, so you can see this is a demand curve as well. So you can see here, equilibrium was at this point. Okay, because of some reasons, demand for Australian dollar has gone down. As a result, the price has gone down too. Okay, now you can see here another time you see here is their equilibrium point, and because of the situation where the Australian government had increased the supply of Australian currency into the market, price will drop. Okay, when there is more supply, more printing of money, you can say more supply of money, it will reduce the exchange rate. Okay. Exchange rate and the balance of payment with government and central bank interventions. Okay, reducing short-term fluctuations, they use the exchange rate. When the exchange rate is too high, that time they try to pay it off using the reserve. And changes in interest rate. The interest rate, look, interest rate is being controlled by the reserve bank. Okay, so from that point of view, yes, they can actually manipulate the interest rate. Last interest rate is always low, 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 and low. I believe in May they're going to increase the exchange, their interest rate in Australia in May and June. I hope so. And let's see how do they do. All right. How does the government actually support the exchange rate? Contractionary policies. Contractionary policy means that they will allow less money within the economy. Money supply will be tightened up. As a result, that consumption will be reduced, rate of inflation will be reduced. Inflation is not a good thing for any economy. You always try to see there is no inflation in the market. Okay, inflation can be stay within 2 to 3% maximum, not more than that. Okay. You can see the aggregate demand will be actually increasing because of the exchange rate. Long run average supply and the aggregate demand curve will be increasing because of the exchange rate. What it says here is that, look, if it happens, the exchange rate is low, that time, other countries will be buying your goods, from your country. If your exchange rate is too high, that country have to pay more and they do not like it. For example, to buy one T-shirt, the Chinese people, they need to pay, for example, let's say 10 RMB. When the Australian currency is appreciated, it means now they do not do it by 5 anymore. They have to pay more. Or Australian traders, they're receiving the same amount of money. This is the problem they have with the exchange rate and their international trade. Okay. Most countries have been floating exchange rate, not fixed anymore, but China and US still is fixed. I think that's all we got in here for today. And next week, we'll be discussing only the exam. And the class will be very short. If any of you are coming late, you may not find us. The class will be really short on next week. And that's all we got for today. Any questions for me, guys?
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. If there are no more questions, I would like to take you guys. Yeah. That's Kinan Haptus is in here. Milad is not here. Charmaine is here. Nancy is not here. Hong is here. Charlie also, she could make permission to leave. Abiraj Hamza, you there?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Abiraj. Udanta, you there? Udanta? All right. Maybe his mic is not working. That's fine. Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? I don't do the last. So like that. All right. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. And one more lecture to go, and that's it. Next week we'll be discussing about our final exam.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You
Thank you very much.
guys have no questions, you guys can log out. and enjoy you. Looking
Yes,
forward.
thank
to
you.
your-
Thank you, Mohammed.
You're welcome. Man. Thank you.